Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fellas Show. Today I'm here with a special guest, the official Marty Walsh YouTube channel, currently going as Peyton Manning, whose real name and what we will be calling him is Jack. And for short, that is TOMWYT, which will probably be what's in the description. What do you have to say, Jack? How's it going?
I have cerebral palsy.
That's great. I also have my good friend and co-host Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to talk about video games for the fifth time.
Yep.
Five time? How do you talk about them?
What?
How do you talk about them 5 times? You've spoken more than 5 words.
Well, I'm sure you'll come to find that we're very devoted to the topics that we discuss.
Yeah. This is the 5th episode. We've had 3 features so far. This being the 3rd. Today, we were originally going to talk about something completely different. Then we decided we want to have a free-flowing conversation, but then me and Ryan came up with a good idea to talk about the entire history of Xbox versus PlayStation console wars, starting from the very beginning. I'm excited. Are you excited, Ryan?
I am excited. We're going all the way back to even before Xbox existed, when Nintendo screwed up royally.
I'm going back to the year I was born in 1981.
Not that far back.
Yeah, if you really want to get started, like PlayStation originally came out in 1981, but you guys wouldn't know that.
So to begin, I believe this was in 1992 or
19, I think
93.
92, 93. Originally, Sony
Can
came...
I talk about it?
Alright, you can talk about it, that's fine.
So, Nintendo had this really cool console called the Super Nintendo, and they wanted to add a CD add-on to it. So they were like partnering up with this little company. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're called Sony. And they're like, hey, you want to make a disk drive for my console? And they were like, yes, we would love to make disk drive. And then they worked together, and then Nintendo was like really mean. So they went to Sony's biggest rival, Philips, and canceled the deal with Sony and worked with Philips instead. That deal also fell through, and the hilarious, funny Philips CDI was created in its wake. And then Sony went on to start developing the PlayStation, which was really cool.
And the reasoning behind why Nintendo had cut their ties with Sony is because they found out that Sony was going to make more money from the CD add-on than Nintendo was, and Nintendo wanted all the money from it. So Nintendo just completely cut off Sony and embarrassed themselves. But they embarrassed Sony at the Consumer Electronics Show by showing off the Nintendo and Philips collaboration when Sony was still working on theirs. So they took what they had and used that basis to make the PS1. And that was the beginning of a console that would go on to beat the Nintendo 64 because Nintendo made another big mistake of sticking with cartridges, but not too long after the PlayStation 1. In an era where the PS2 was coming out, Microsoft was
hold on. Let's put this into contention. Like, because of Nintendo's mistake, Sony has been the king of the console wars the past 4 times. The PS4.
PS4 was not as good as Xbox.
Well, my bad.
The
PS1 sold over 100 million units. The PS2 is the best-selling console in existence.
I have breast cancer.
The PS3 sold around 78 million units.
Didn't beat the Wii though.
It did not beat the Wii, but
Wii, more like Wii. Am I right, guys?
Talking about Xbox versus PlayStation, PlayStation beat Xbox that time, and the PS4 has now sold over 100 million units. So every single time, Xbox versus PlayStation, PlayStation has won. But continue with the PS2.
So when the PS2 was coming out, I believe it was around this time that Microsoft was wowed by what Sony showed off, and they decided to throw their own hat into the console ring because video games were exploding at that time. They were at their biggest scale ever, especially regarding the sales of the PS2 that went on to happen because they had a DVD
No,
player.
Mom, I don't want to shit in the urinal.
So as they were developing the Xbox console, here's how Xbox got their title. This is a pretty interesting fact that's pretty funny. Xbox was made using a software related to PC called DirectX, I believe. And somebody said, since this is an X console, we should call it the XX Xbox because we have all these adult oriented games. And somebody else said, why don't we just shorten it to Xbox? So, Xbox got its title because somebody on the team was making a stupid joke.
A sex joke.
And not too long after that, the Xbox released, and it was a competitor to the PS2, and it beat the Sega Dreamcast, which came out first. And so began an era of console wars that are still going on to now. So
I remember
PlayStation.
when Xbox first came out. You guys weren't born yet. I was born in 1985, so like you guys didn't know. But when Xbox came out, they had this green guy, and he beat my wife.
So the PS2 was well known and became the best-selling console ever because it had a DVD player. The Xbox didn't have this, but it had
Yeah.
the best graphics.
The
And the PS2.
the best part of this episode so far is when Ryan immediately cuts off Jack and just goes right back to what he's saying. It's hilarious. I love it.
This is what happens when you get 2 hours of sleep. By the way.
Continue, Ryan.
So I think the number one reason why the PS2 was the best-selling console of its generation was because it had a DVD player and more
Oh, yeah.
exclusives for that matter. But
It was a
Xbox
DVD
during
player.
that generation had the best graphics, and they've always had the best graphics. But PlayStation
Whoa,
had the
nice
games.
graphics!
So
I'd
on
like to get my hands on that game.
That's NES, not PS2. So on PS2 side, they had debuts of amazing series like God of War, Ratchet and Clank. They had Jack and Daxter on there.
So, green slut burgers.
Hey, can you guys hear me to level up 2 more times? Because I can get a sim.
Ryan, I can't hear you.
Devil dog tits.
I can only hear Jack.
I did that.
I can only hear Michael.
Oh, there he goes. How you doing,
Bad
Jack?
to the bone.
How
There
about
you
now?
Oh, you're good.
Ryan!
Yeah, for a little bit you were cut off. I don't think I'm gonna edit it out. I like the fact that this is all live, so
So
yes.
as I was saying,
Well, there's just gonna be an uncomfortable moment of silence for a little bit. But yeah, continue.
the original Xbox blew up with Halo, and even though they weren't that apparent because Sony absolutely blew everyone's minds with that DVD player and became number one, they were still there, and they still got ahead of Nintendo because the GameCube had tiny discs, and Nintendo had kind of a kid-friendly drive, and they lost a lot of market share, especially since the GameCube didn't have as much storage as the other two consoles. So the big meaty ones with all the third parties and big graphics were the PS2 and the Xbox. So PlayStation versus Xbox. Ever since those two consoles have existed, they've been going at it. They've been in
Gaming.
combat.
Real
In a word,
You're
Gaming.
like gay.
gaming.
Continue.
I don't think the PS2 had any form of online, right?
It did. It was like a LAN
It did, but
adapter.
you had to get a separate thing for it.
Yeah, you had to get a separate
Xbox
thing.
had a built-in Ethernet, I believe.
Yep. Xbox.
But the original
Xbox Live Gaming.
yes, it had Xbox Live, and ever since there's been Xbox, there's been online for Xbox, and that was Xbox Live. And they didn't cut support for that until like I think 8 years ago, so it must have been pretty successful, especially considering Halo's multiplayer is one of the best known ones there is.
Xbox Live was the reason the Xbox sold better than the GameCube. It's the reason that the Xbox 360 did as well as it is. I don't know about Xbox One. That's a whole other
Realm of gaming.
So does anybody else have anything
hold
else
on.
to
Since
say
you're
about
talking
this
about
generation?
gaming, I'd like to mention that my wife beat my son and then gambled away all our money in a gaming casino So if you guys would like to reach out to my wife and give her a piece of your mind, call 1-800-555-3821 today.
So does anybody else have any additional information about the PS2 or the Xbox they want to share before we move on to the next generation?
I tried unscrewing every part of a PS2 and seeing what was inside, and it didn't work.
I own a PS2. I don't own an Xbox.
I have a PS2. It's right up on my shelf. It's been collecting dust for like 5 years.
The only game I played on my PS2 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I have a collection of PS2 games. It's not that big. It's like, I'd say, ballpark slightly less than 20 games, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't think I've really played any Xbox games. I have GTA San Andreas for the Xbox that I can use on the Xbox One. That's about it.
If I were to get any console that's considered retro, I'd either get a Sega Dreamcast or an original Xbox because I love how that console looks.
The Duke. The Duke.
Not the Duke controller. We're not talking about that controller. We're not even gonna bring.
Yes, that controller.
That controller was
is
so bad that they.
That
had to
controller
export it to
is the
Japanese
big
markets.
chungus of controllers. It's amazing.
The Duke.
So next gen, Xbox 360. PS3 had a horrible launch because it was super expensive, and Xbox
Gaming.
came shooting right out of the blue, beating PlayStation to the punch for the first time, and everybody thought, this is
Oh.
Microsoft's generation.
Oh,
Xbox 360, to this day, is what some people think is the
However,
best
if you were
Xbox
like
console
me,
of all
you
time.
guys wouldn't know because I was born in 1996. Like if you knew, but like Nintendo looked like they were gonna come out on top because their console's name is named after my dick. Because like they went to me and they're like, "Hey, can we name this console after your dick?" And I said, "Okay." Give me the best selling one. All of a sudden, Xbox comes out before this console name for my dick comes out, and I get so pissed off because Xbox did really well. It did pretty fucking well upon launch. You know, you had to get the hard drive for some of the backwards compatible games, but you know, overall it was good.
Yeah, the Xbox launched a full year before the Sony.
And it was the first, I think, HD
and-
console to ever release.
And
Yep.
speaking of which, part of the reason it got out so early, part of the effect of it getting out so early, was that the original white Xbox 360 sucked absolute cock. They red ringed all the time, rendering the system completely fucking useless. They just sucked. I went through fucking 3 or 4 of them, and they were used to be fair, but they were like, we went through 3 or 4 of them, and then we just said, fuck it, we're not getting these anymore.
So games-wise in the Xbox 360, I think this was the first Xbox console to have those big titles, Gears of War and Forza. So it was looking like they were all set. For a couple of years, Xbox really was in the lead. But let's talk about the PlayStation 3. PS3
Oh yeah, they had
kind
some
of a
really
strange
scary
launch.
advertisements.
PS3 baby, PS3 baby.
The PS3 advertisements were not good, but the Xbox 360 advertisements were the beginning of that iconic.
Yeah, I remember when Xbox 360, like you guys wouldn't know because you weren't born in 1987. But
So why is it called 360? Because the logo is a circle?
Let me.
360
I'm gonna
bits,
Google it
360
right
bits maybe. I don't know.
now. All right.
That's
I'll
the excuse
Google
for
it
every
now.
other knockoff of that
Why
shit.
is the Xbox 360 called that?
But yeah, the ads for PS3 were really scary, but like the ones on Xbox, it was like Xbox does what
the Xbox
PS
360
don't.
name was chosen to imply that the gamer is at the center of the Xbox experience.
That does sound a
What
lot
kind
better
of
than just
fucking
playing
bullshit
PlayStation
is that?
3.
I mean, 360 was a good name. Everyone expected the next one to be called 720.
For a long time, Sony was lagging behind until they really started picking it up with the games. They cut the price down, and Xbox, instead of doing anything games-wise, their big push for later on in the generation was the Kinect.
Entertainment in gaming.
Now, the
Oh yeah, the
Kinect
Kinect.
did help
Remember, like I
extend
would
the
always be
Xbox
on the Kinect,
360's
and I would
lifespan.
use my dick to control the menus. Yeah,
All I
good
remember
times.
doing on the Kinect was just playing Disneyland Adventures and Kinectimals once and never doing it again. And there was a little kids Nickelodeon Kinect game I played once on the Xbox 360, and I don't know if I still own it or I gave it to Michael.
Yeah,
But Kinect did help push Xbox 360 later on into its lifespan to compete with Sony. But surprisingly, ultimately, Sony beat Xbox for the second time, and certainly not the last one. Even though Nintendo beat both of them, I think that's how that generation ended.
Yeah, you gave me your Connect. It's sitting in under my table because there's not under, inside because there's like this thing a latch you lift and you can store stuff in the table. That's where I keep all my controllers and stuff. The Connect's in there. I still have it.
Now,
Oh yeah, I remember
another
when
thing
I
that
got a Kinect. I remember when I used a Kinect. It was really nice.
another
And,
thing that was
and by
really
nice, I mean it was absolute fucking horseshit.
another thing that really helped out the Xbox 360 competing against Sony was when Halo 3 came out, because
Halo 3 is a godlike game.
by this point in Xbox video game history, Halo was already one of the biggest franchises. People were comparing Master Chief to Mario, and he became Xbox's mascot. PlayStation, I don't think, still
Yeah.
really doesn't have that much of a mascot.
Sack boy!
But what
Knack.
did PS3 give us?
Go ahead,
PS3 gave us Little Big Planet. It gave us The Last of Us. That's another big
But
franchise
what
everybody
about the
talks about.
first of us? What about the first of us? Who
The
remembers
First
that
of
game?
Us was the first Last of Us game. And they
No,
had PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, but we did not talk about that.
Ryan. It was called The Last of Us.
I know.
It's okay. The Last of Us really helped PS3. That was like their big exclusive.
Where's the first of us?
And PS3 was the first PlayStation console to have online on it to compete against Xbox Live.
Yep.
Did they do PlayStation Plus by that point?
I don't. Later in the life.
Did it cost money or was it free?
It costed money.
Originally,
of course.
PlayStation Network was free, and then when they saw Xbox could get away with charging people for it, they decided to hop on that. And then
when I get
they
into the
sucked- and then they-
PS4,
and then they sucked me off for some nice money.
I want to get
Like,
into
it was-
the PS4. With the PS4,
So
basically,
current gen.
it came down to the fact that PS4 had all the good exclusives and Xbox didn't. For example,
Xbox
last-
had
The Last of Us, The Last of Us Part 2.
That's,
like,
I'm protesting. I'm protesting you.
Oh, he's muted. Thank God. The Last of Us, The Last of Us Part 2.
They gave us Knack on the PS4.
What?
They gave us Knack on the PS4.
Knack
It was-
9!
It was the only
Knack
linked launch title at
9!
the time. So, for PS4
Knack
versus
4?
Xbox One, this was around the time when Xbox decided, PC's also Microsoft. So let's just put all our games on PC. So that really hurt them in the gen. And Sony beat them with an even bigger punch than last generation, and it's been that way ever since. But if we just count,
My thing with PlayStation is that they basically had all the exclusives. Like I said, both The Last of Us, because they remastered the first one, Until Dawn, Spider-Man, God of War. The list could go on and on. Xbox had
they gave us Horizon.
Yeah, Xbox had some exclusives, but like PlayStation had only exclusives. Xbox doesn't have shit. Let's be real.
PlayStation never went crazier in any other generation.
I think maybe all of my Xbox games right now I could get on PlayStation. Probably
or
all of them.
PC. I own
PC.
a PC, so I don't really have a reason to get an Xbox, but all my friends
Yeah, the
play
dog
on
pussy
Xbox.
was whack! Oh shit, I'm sorry, I was supposed to be muted. I didn't mean to do that.
So PS4 has had a pretty long lifespan. It's still going. Xbox One is slowing down for the Series X. We have the prices announced for the next generation, but what did Xbox One have? They gave us Rare Replay. They gave us Halo 5. I'm not sure how Halo 5 was because I've never played a
Halo
game
5, Halo Wars 2, Halo Guardians.
I suck, cunt!
They gave us a couple new Forza games. They gave us several Gears of War games. And Microsoft has done all sorts of stuff. But I'm not sure why they don't give Xbox exclusives. That's what really hurts them, but they still win in the end because both Xbox and PC are still Microsoft.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right just having a console with no games you can only play on that console. They have timed exclusives, but I think most of those just launch at the same time as
Well,
PC.
they have console exclusives, and PlayStation also talking about porting their games to PC. It's console exclusives because console is a separate market. Um, I
Another thing
have
about
what?
Another thing about the generation that was really interesting was like the revisions for the consoles, like PS4 to PS4 Pro,
Mm-hmm.
Xbox going through the Xbox One S, Xbox One X. They had all sorts of limited editions. They had a Taco Bell Xbox.
Yep, they did. Um, shit. What was I gonna
Taco
say?
Bell is for my north.
Um, what was I gonna say?
The
Um,
Xbox is cool.
You'd think
im-
with Xbox having the better graphics, they'd get all the games first, but I think Sony did because they got triple digits in sales, but Xbox only got 30 million, being outsold by the Switch, even though they had a head start by I
I
think
think they have
3 years.
50 million
Fucking
now.
snake stick.
I think they have 50 million now. But if I have an Xbox One, so I'm a little biased. However, if I had to choose which console was better based on games, it would easily be Sony. PlayStation 4 easily has the better games. I think Xbox has the better online. Um, Sony
I'd
has
rather suck dick than on a PS4.
um, Sony has the better console design. Like, let's be real, the first Xbox One
What
was
the
a
fuck are you talking about?
the first
Two
X the
slabs,
f- no 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 the
two,
first.
two fucking slabs on top of each other is
Yes,
none of the better design there could
it's
be.
better than a fucking VCR. I don't need a VCR on
What
my
are you
TV.
talking about? The VCR is clearly better. Are you fucking retarded? You fucking
Can we
stupid
agree that the
minority.
later
I will
revisions of the
fucking
Xbox
make
One
sure
look
that your
better?
whole family is fucking stabbed at our throat.
They fixed the Xbox One later on with the revisions.
Oh
They looked a lot better than the very first one, like the S.
shit! Look, all right. What is it? It's 22 minutes. I'm just gonna cut out. I'm gonna have to go to 22 minutes and cut that out. Thanks, Jack. Um,
So are we still going? Can we talk
yeah,
about current gen?
yeah. Let's talk about current gen.
And
All
PS5
right.
sucks and Xbox is gonna be better. Suck
Now
my dick, America. Baba Booey. Suck my fucking black dick.
Anyways,
now these consoles are not out yet, but the PS5 versus Series X is probably the most interesting competition I've seen from these two so far. Because I've been able to watch all the presentations live for the very first time. PS5 looks great. Xbox looks great. I'm getting Xbox, but I don't think PS5 looks bad at all by any means. Like there are games on PS5 that I think are really interesting, and most of them I can play on PC, so I'm excited. And on Xbox's side, that's the console I'm actually getting. The controllers look great. The price looks fair. They have a good revision for only half the price, while Sony only has a digital edition. But I think that both consoles are going to be really good. Sony is definitely going to outsell Xbox, but I think this is my prediction. Xbox Series X is going to sell better than Xbox One did.
oh yeah, I think so. I hope so.
So
Um,
Oh, well, my
what are the
prediction
big
for sales, I think you see PS5 will see a 40% markup in stock prices. And then Hogan's Castle will be ported to Xbox, and Xbox will receive a 900% increase in its stock value on the New York Stock Exchange.
So games wise, this generation is looking promising on both sides. Microsoft has Xbox Game Studios, and this generation they have so many divisions all making games. But on PlayStation side, they already came out with the big heavy hitter that was Spider-Man. Xbox has Fable. Them not launching with Halo Infinite is definitely going to cause a decrease in sales for the beginning of the generation. I'm not going to say that was a mistake though, because that game really should look great, and them releasing it on the Xbox One kind of hinders it.
yeah, well,
Um,
that's why they delayed it so they could, you know, get it fixed.
Now, the only flops I can think of are just several embarrassing games that both sides released. Like, who is gonna buy the gunk?
The gunk. The gunk.
But what about Goodbye Volcano High?
People will buy that for ironic reasons.
Yeah.
Everybody I've seen reacting to it has either hated it or said, I'm gonna stream this out of irony.
Yeah.
And the controllers, I think PlayStation's looks fine. It still bothers me that they haven't really majorly advertised a dark version. But for Xbox, it's just the same. On their box art, it just says Xbox. So
They-
I'm
You
thinking this is
see,
gonna be the
the
last
Xbox
Xbox.
design, well, it looks like a mini fridge, is better than the fucking evil lab coat design that whatever the fuck that was that the PS5 went with.
Most people say it looks like a router.
Yeah.
People say that the Series S looks like a drive-through machine.
Yeah, the Xbox controller still requires batteries. We are in 2020, and there will be a console that launches that you need batteries.
I hope you can just plug it into the wall.
You've been able to like have a USB. You've been able to use a USB the whole time.
This is also the first episode since they announced the price and release for the PS5, which I think is only 2 days after Xbox. And they're the same price, so this time, I believe for the first time in gaming with PlayStation and Xbox, it's all up to preference now instead of the cheaper console, unless you're going for the version that does all digital.
I'm going all digital.
For me, I'm getting the Xbox Series X. I'm going all in, because I've been Nintendo all my life, so I'm very excited to see graphics that'll blow me away. I haven't seen many Microsoft developers take full advantage of the hardware they have, but I'm sure by the end of the lifespan they will. Both consoles have to go all out, and the best part about competition is that the people who buy the games win, because competition brings out the best in both companies and PC owners.
Anyone have anything else to add?
Well, I would like to just say
That's it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. That's an
Um,
exclusive right there.
do you have anything else to say?
the government's been lying to you.
That was honestly kind of clean, not gonna lie. And
That it?
Yeah.
I've said all I had to say.
Alright, I think that was a very different episode than what we normally do, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to drop by and give this a listen. We don't links though. Yeah, we don't put links in the description. We should start doing that soon. Not this episode. I think next episode we might have links to channels and stuff, but as for now, thank you again. And as always, we'll see you on the flip side. Goodbye.